Guys, if you can't tell by the lighting, I just watched Sinners. We need to talk about it. So right off the bat, obviously Sinners was a 10 out of 10. Obviously Sinners was a masterpiece. If you were expecting me to say anything else, I'm sorry. This is not the video. This is not the channel for you. This is not the channel for you because, baby, I ate it up. I ate it up from start to finish. I ate it up. So, premise of the movie is we've got these two twins, the Smokestack twins. They are returning from Chicago, wanting to open up a juke joint in their hometown in Mississippi. And they hire various friends, various family. Like, they've got their cousin doing music. They've got Delta Slim, which is another musician, on piano. They hired some of their friends to help like decorate this old sawmill that they buy. They get it fixed up. That way their community can have somewhere to just come, relax, basically be themselves, because it is like in the 1900s, like 1917, when all of this is happening. So of course they want to create a safe space for their community to come, just relax, be themselves, and have a good time, because they are not having a good time in their daily lives. Okay, it's a struggle out here for us. So as we do, we mind our own business and we turn up. However, the night was still young when vampires decide to come and crash the party. And of course, horror and foolishness ensues. Now, if you haven't seen Sinners yet, I don't know what you're waiting on. You need to go see it. Expeditiously, you need to go see it, because this review will contain spoilers. And if you do not want to be spoiled, if you have been ducking and dodging the spoilers this whole time, go watch Sinners and then come back and we can discuss, okay? All right, now that it's just my people that have seen Sinners, we're gonna talk about it, okay? We're gonna talk about it. First off, the actoring, okay? And I got that from my girl Jean in Jean's movie chats. I love her. But the actoring was done in this movie, okay? Ryan Coogler, as the director, he ate. Michael B. Jordan. Really, every actor and actress that was in this movie, main character to like someone we only saw in passing, everybody ate, okay? Ryan must have been on that set like, look, I'm trying to bring a masterpiece to life. Do you want to be part of this or not? If you don't, please exit stage left immediately. Okay, now that we have everybody here who wants to work, let's get started. Because baby, these people wanted to work, and work they did. You can't tell me that Michael B. Jordan was not hiding a secret twin this whole time, because you can't convince me that that was the same person doing those two roles. There's no way. There's no way. The way that Smoke and Stack were two completely different yet similar people, as twins are, immaculate. The fact that why is his name escaping me? But the fact that Sammy learned how to play guitar for this role, and the fact that blues was such like, I did not realize, like, I've been aware of the blues. I've liked the blues. If somebody put on the blues, I would listen to it, you know, I would jam with it, but I wouldn't put it on myself. But after seeing this movie, first off, the soundtrack has been going triple platinum in my house. Because the score, immaculate. But second of all, I am looking into more like blues artists, because a time was had. And the fact that like me and my whole like movie theater, honestly, when they were in the juke joint and they were jamming, we were all up in there jamming. Quite honestly, we were all up in there jamming. But I know this review is kind of all over the place because it was just so good. And I don't know what I want to talk about first, but I'm going to try and go in order of events for the movie and like talk about it that way so that you're not confused. So I wanted to get all of that kind of stuff out of the way. Like, the score was amazing. Set design, amazing. Like, characters, amazing. The outfits, amazing. Directing, obviously, amazing. the relationship between Sammy and Smoke and Stack, like, you could tell that he looked up to his older cousins. You could tell he looked up to his older cousins, and I loved all the major themes that were displayed in this movie as well. But just going off of relationships, Sammy and his father, you could tell that, like, Sammy was supposed to be portraying like the quintessential good son. He woke up early. He helped his mom with his siblings. He went and made sure that they got their quota done for the day with, because they were all picking cotton back then, and they had to fill quotas that they would then have to go and kind of, I think they had to weigh it too, on these machines, and then they would be paid in wooden nickels. Hence the saying, don't take no wooden nickels. Because wooden nickels were not real money. They were just essentially tokens, kind of like how you can use tokens in arcades only. You could only use those wooden nickels at the stores and stuff that the plantation owners owned. So they were that's how that they were able to keep Black people poor a lot of the time, because the only money that they were able to make from all of their labor was these wooden nickels that weren't really worth anything. Which is why you also see that later on in the movie at the juke joint, when Smoke is complaining about the fact that they're not really making any profit, and Stack is like, listen, you said that you wanted this for our people. That means we have to take the money that our people are able to give us, because a lot of this stuff is coming from their literal blood, sweat, and tears. So some of them may have some actual money, but a lot of them will probably have these wooden nickels that aren't worth a flip. So I think even throughout the movie, where you can tell that, like, Sammy looks up to and loves his older cousins, and his cousins look out for him and make sure that nobody is doing anything crazy to him. Like when the Smokestack twins are reunited with Sammy, and Smoke asks to make sure, like, your father isn't putting any hands on you, right? And Sammy's like, nah. And they're both like, okay, good. You can tell if Sammy had said yes, Smoke would have handled that immediately. And then when we move on and see the dynamic that they have with their girls, like Smoke and Annie were my favorite couple, because you could just see the love and the care and the devotion there. Like, even when Smoke first comes home and, you know, he stops by the grave and Annie sees him outside, she comes to them, they talk a little bit, and then they go inside, and Smoke is making fun of the fact that, like, she took the little girl's money. Maybe it wasn't real money. And Annie was like, nah, like, this money is good here because I don't plan on going anywhere else. And then Smoke proceeds to make fun of the fact that, like, she still believes in, like, hoodoo and voodoo and stuff. And Annie is like, you standing right in front of me, aren't you? That was me. You don't know if that was your luck or if that was the talisman that you're wearing that I prayed over to keep you safe, and then I prayed for you day and night to make sure you and your trifling twin stayed safe out there. And then when he was like, well, why didn't it save our child? That was low. And Annie was like, I don't know. But hey, they were grieving, so you know what? I'm not gonna hold that too much. But I just love their dynamic. I love the fact that even when Smoke was throwing jabs and throwing shots, you could tell he loved that woman down. Because as soon as business was handled, who did he go to first? Annie. Who did he stick beside the rest of the movie? Annie. Who did he not play about regardless? Annie. Honestly, I loved it. Because, you know, there is some discourse online saying, like, because people aren't used to seeing a full-figured Black woman get the love and respect that she deserves. Because that's still an exception to the rule and not the norm. I love the fact that Ryan Coogler said, y'all may feel that way, but that's not my prerogative. Period. Because on the other side of things, you have, why is Haley Steinfeld's character escaping me? But Haley Steinfeld's character was the love interest for Stack. And it also cracked me up because a lot of us were like, you know what? if I squint and tilt my head, Haley could be black. Like, but that just goes to show how well of a job Ryan Coogler did with setting everything up. Because for that movie, I thoroughly believe that Haley Steinfeld's character was just white passing, and she definitely could have been raised around the black folks in their town in Mississippi. And then, you know, when she moved so that she could fully lean into being white passing, I fully believe all of that. And, you know, you could just see from her and Stack's interactions, I feel like it wasn't as wholesome. It wasn't as, like, easy as Smoke and Annie's interactions. Like, Stack, I wonder if Mary, that's her name, I wonder if Stack saw Mary more as, like, not a sister, even though they did all grow up together, but more of like a childhood friend. There we go. I feel like Stack saw Mary as more of like a childhood friend, and he did love her, and maybe he would love her romantically for the rest of his life. But when we do meet them, I do feel like his love for her was more from, he wants the best for her, more like childhood friend, more like maybe she was his first love, as opposed to the fact that he was in love with her. Because, you know, even at the train station, he's like, I told you to stay away from me. And Mary's like, yeah, but, you know, you were flipping and twirling me up in the air like an acrobat so good, I thought you changed your mind. And he's like, whoa, lower your voice. Lower your voice. But also, like, 'cause exactly, girl, you can't be saying that kind of stuff to a black man in 1917 in Mississippi. You trying to get Stack snatched up. And I feel like that was another theme in the movie throughout, that Mary had been white passing for so long that she forgot the dangers that her black counterparts had to face in that setting and in the time that they were living in. So let's skip towards when we get to the juke joint, right? Everything is going down. Everybody's having a good time. You have that scene where Sammy pierces the veil, and both his ancestors and future generations all combine, not just for us, but for the Asian community as well, to the point where it looks like they're bringing the house down because they're having such a good time, but that's just like a play on the fact that he was able to pierce the veil so thoroughly that so many ancestors and so many future generations could come and all turn up together. And this is what draws the vampire Remick to them in the first place, because Remick has been trapped on Earth. I mean, he's a vampire, honestly. He can't die. And he wants that proximity to Sammy's abilities so that he can use them for his own gain, i.e., so that he can meet with his deceased family members. Because in the Spotify playlist, there was a article that an immigrant Irish ship had like sank, or like I think it exploded or something, and Remick was the only one to survive that. So as Sammy and all them are having a good time, the fact that Mary is low-key using microaggressions towards Sammy, let's talk about it for a minute. Because when Sammy is like, look, I'm with the twins, I really don't think that you should be here, Mary. And Mary is like, boy, get up out of my face, please. Because boy, in that context, that's a microaggression. So the fact that she was using micro and macroaggressions against Sammy until she realized that that was little Sammy that she had seen, you know, that they had all grown up together with, that's when her tone changed. She was like, oh, Sammy, oh my gosh, how are you? Which is wild, but not really, because Mary had been using microaggressions the whole time. And Stack, Loki, was also on the same kind of time. Like, the fact that she could get away with all this was because nobody in Arkansas or Arizona, or wherever she was at, wherever she had moved to, did not know that she had black women in her family because of the one drop rule. So it's like, Mary, girl, what the heck? And then when Stack is frustrated because they're not making any money, because Smoke and Stack are looking at the numbers and they realize that they're in the red. Mary runs into him. She asks him what's wrong. And Stack is like, we're in the red. We need money desperately. And Mary's like, oh, well, let me go talk to, because at this point, Remick and his two followers, which, side tangent on that, the Indians cracked me up. But they were actually such a mood. Because when they were chasing Remick, right, they had Remick on the ropes, quite honestly. Dude's body was like literally smoking as he was running away. So Remick goes and he hides out in this couple's little like ranch house. It kind of reminded me of Courage the Cowardly Dog's house, which cracked me up. But anyway, so he's hiding out in there. So the Indians come and they're like, hey, we're searching for this man. Have you seen him? He's very dangerous. And the woman answers the door and she's like, nah, we haven't seen him. Now get on about my property, because she's holding a shotgun. And so he's like, all right. Like, the sun is starting to set. The rest of his posse is like, dude, like, we gotta go before, nightfall hits. It's about to get dangerous. Let's bounce. So he's basically like, be easy. And he leaves. No begging, no pleading, like, please believe me, this man is dangerous, and I think, because you're the only home around for miles, I think you need to let us take him. No, none of that. Period. I know that's right. So the two, the couple that he turned into vampires and Remick, they arrive at the juke joint and they're like, hey, we want to come in. We want to come in. We're some blues players. We just want to have a good time. And everybody is basically like, babes, you're in the wrong spot. There's another shindig happening, up the street where we think you would be a little bit more comfortable. And Remick is like, nah, we want to be here. Nah, we want to be here. We want to chill here with y'all. While they bust out a banjo and they start going. They're like, piss poor, I been clean. Dee 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 dee, 'cause I piss poor, I been clean. And everybody's like, now why would you think? But Stack is over there. Oh, it's kind of a bop. But they were like, nah, go on now. And Remick honestly was comedy in this movie, because why did he turn around like, okay, but we're gonna walk away real slow in case you change your mind. Like, please. They actually don't end up going anywhere. They sitting on a little log. So back to inside the juke joint when Smoke and Mary are talking, and Mary's like, look, let me go outside and let me talk to them, see what kind of money they are working with. So Mary goes outside to talk to them, which I feel like was her first mistake, because I feel like that showed how arrogant Mary had become, because she really thought that she would be safe and she would be able to barter and negotiate with them as a white woman, even though she was doing it for Stack. I feel like her ego also played into the fact that, like, she truly believed that she'd go down there and ask them how much money that they were going to have, kind of negotiate terms and conditions and things like that, and then bring them inside this establishment that they really should not have been in during this time period. Like, it was arrogance. But listen, now, if you were worried that this movie was like a jump scare, there were a couple places where I did like jump back a little bit. Like, it did surprise me, but I wouldn't say it was full of jump scares. Now, when Mary turns around, because the three of them are starting to be, like, the three vampires are starting to be a little too creepy, and Remick started drooling. So when she got up and she said, you know what? Let me take myself right on back inside, because y'all doing what? The most. She turned around and my whole movie theater was like, girl, why would you show them your back? The way that Remick rose up, guys, that took me out. That was so creepy. That was so creepy, and that caused me to jump because I said, nah. Like, I really just, even though I should have known because Mary was walking instead of running, I should have known. I should have known. When he rose up, I just knew my girl was going to make it back. I just knew my girl was going to make it back. Guys. But you know what, though? You know what, though? I should have suspected something. Like, looking back, I should have suspected something. When she came back to the door and she was like, Cornbread, you gonna let me in? And Cornbread was like, yeah, what are you talking about? Come on in. Why does she have to ask permission that second time? The Easter eggs were there and I just was not picking it up because I didn't think anything of it either. I was like, I mean, maybe she was just joking. That's what I thought at first. Maybe she was just joking. Nah, man. Nah. Of course, foolishness ensues. And one by one, they're getting taken out. Okay? Mary take out Snack. Mary take out Stack. Cornbread gets got because he had to go use the bathroom. And then everybody else, I feel like everybody else caught it straight. Oh my gosh. Because after Mary gets Stack and she runs out, she runs out of the building. So everybody thinks that Stack is dead. So they tell everybody else, you know, hey, y'all gotta go home. The party is over. So everybody else is like, dang. So they leaving, right? Lo and behold, beholding lo. Because at first, Annie thinks it's a haint. Because when Stack gets back up and, you know, he's talking from the other side of the door because they didn't lock him in his room. They talking from the other side. He's talking from the other side of the door and everybody else like, I thought you said, but I thought he was. And Annie's like, he is. Honestly, I feel like if Annie had not been there, Smoke would have folded because when Stack is like, bro, let me out of here, Smoke was finally like, let me go get the key. He was gonna unlock the door and let Stack come out. But I feel like because Stack broke the door down and ran out, because technically he was no longer invited in. I'm just picking that up. And Annie's like, nah, we dealing with some vampires. And everybody else is like, ah, shoot, what we gonna do? How we handle this? And I love that. I love that nobody was like, well, actually, or are you sure? How do you know? What if we just go take a look outside? Like, do we need to confirm? Like, how do we confirm that they're vampires and they're not something else? Like, they could just be sick. There was none of that. But also, every time that there was danger, Annie instinctually moved back behind Smoke at the same time that Smoke would step up in front of Annie. I love that. I love that there was no conversation. I love that neither of them hesitated. I love the fact that they both knew Smoke was going to protect Annie. Period. Point blank, no questions asked. Perline almost got on my nerves because she was doing too much with that garlic. Because everybody was like, you know, we eating the garlic. Perline talking about something. I don't like the taste. Are we sure? Are we positive? The fact that Smoke was like, look, eat this garlic or get out. Because you starting to sound just like a vampire would. But Grace, let's talk about Grace. Because there's been a lot of discord about Grace. And honestly, I'm not too mad at Grace. Because, first of all, Bo went out to get the car, so obviously he got, right? So when he's knocking on the door and they open it and they see Bo, and he's like, you know, hey, I got the car running, come on, let's go. Then they start talking in, I think it was Mandarin maybe? Remick is talking to her like that. And he's saying some slick stuff, okay? So her husband is gone. He is now part of this vampire groupthink. Then they start threatening her daughter. And that's when I say, you know what? I know Grace is about to do something shiesty because she wants to protect her daughter. And I cannot be mad at that. I can't. Because she really did hold off as long as she could. Because she was like, look, we need to invite them in and take them out now so that they cannot make it to the town. Because the town is where they had left her daughter at. And Smoke and the rest of them were like, that does make sense, but we need to come up with a plan first. So she was all for waiting for a plan to be had, except for the fact that Remy would not let her think. Like, he would not let her take a second to think and to breathe. He just kept taunting her with her daughter's safety. I can't be mad at that. But what I can be mad about is when Grace finally breaks and it's like, come in, you diabolical psychos. And everybody turned to look at her like, ma'am, are you serious? Everybody start coming in like it's the 4th of July party, y'all. Like, how she get taken out? Because she made like Molotov cocktails. How did she get taken out by fire in the doorway? Like, I feel like, and then she got taken out so quickly too. Grace, if she had fought a little bit harder, she had just fought a little bit harder to make it to the car, fine. But I think she was attacking Bo. I think that was her primary focus, to get him, like to free him, because Annie had said, you know, once you become a vampire, your spirit is essentially trapped in your body and you can't move on. So I think that's why Grace was focusing so heavily on taking Bo out. But girl, you took yourself out in the process. So now your daughter is an orphan. But I don't think it was anybody but Remy's fault. Because if Remy had never popped up, Mary would have never made the suggestion to go outside, and Stack would have never agreed. Nobody would have been turned. So really, if we have to point the blame, it's Remy's fault. Especially considering the fact that Remy is Irish, and the Irish have been colonized, so he knew what, you know, his fellow minority was going through. But at the same time, he could not relate enough for me, because you are trapped on this earth forever, and so you want to trap everybody else on earth forever in the times that y'all living in as a form of freedom? Absolutely not. None of that makes any sense. If you think about it, none of that makes any sense. It was just a definition of misery loves company. He wasn't changing their circumstances. He was just changing their lifespan. So while I was watching the movie, I thought about Sammy, because he grows older and he decides to continue pursuing the blues and his music, because that was what really gave him joy. And I wish that his father, instead of giving him an ultimatum when he went back to the church, because it was obvious that Sammy went back to the church because his whole world has just been turned upside down. All those people he lost in a single night, all of the bloodshed that he had just seen in a single night, it was obvious that he would go somewhere that he thought was his safe space, i.e. the church, with his family. But the fact that his father couldn't at least give him a hug, he immediately was like, I told you, if you dance with the devil, eventually he's going to follow you home. He was talking about, you know, giving up music and being completely cemented in the church. Why did his father have to give him that ultimatum? You couldn't have at least waited until the wounds healed out. Golly. And so Sammy picks music over that. He ends up growing older and everything. He is now in a band, I believe. Stack and Mary end up finding him. And, you know, they're talking, and Stack reveals that Smoke made him promise to leave Sammy alone. And at first, I was wondering if this was, you know, that old folklore tale where they say that a man sold his soul to be the greatest musician of all time at the crossroads. But I don't think so, because when Stack, Mary, or really just Stack and Sammy are talking, Sammy just wants to know if that night at the juke joint was as fun for them as it was for him. There's no mention of like deals or anything else, and Stack and Mary end up leaving. So I think even to the end, he just was happy with the fact that he got to see his cousin one last time, because during the whole fiasco that was the night of the juke joint, Mary and Stack end up running off into the night because their like group think with Remick was broken after Annie was killed. I believe that was because Mary really did see her as family. And Stack, for all his jokes, for all his shortcomings, he also saw Annie as family, because both of them were very distraught when Smoke kills Annie before she can turn, because Annie had made him promise to do so. Honestly, I'm really sad that the night ended the way that it did. But it was such great storytelling, I don't know if it should have ended any other way. So, of course, I mean, I said it at the beginning of the video, I'm gonna say it at the end. 10 out of 10 movie. Honestly, this might be the movie of 2025. Like, it just felt like cinema. The cinematography, it just felt like a movie that I should be seeing in theaters. That's how movies used to be, until they started turning out the same thing, you know, over and over and over again. But when we say we want original stories, this is what we're talking about. But that's all I have for you guys today. I could gush about this movie until I'm blue in the face, quite honestly. But those are the main highlights, the main things I wanted to talk about, the main things I wanted to point out. If you have seen Sinners in theaters, drop down in the comments what you thought of the movie. But I will see y'all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.